And I apologize for being absent on Wednesday. Could not be helped. But it looks like I would have had to have pushed back the test anyways. So today we're just going to review. And I did put this on Brightspace, so maybe some of you already got started. If you did, great. If not, then we'll go through it here. Basically, if you know these things, and I do this before every test, so this won't be the only time. If you're good with this, then you should do well on the exam. So the first thing you need to know is just some of the basics about creation narratives, okay? And so in this case, and you don't have to include all of it, all right? You can just do a couple of these. You should know that typically creation narratives give either like a specific date for creation or like a length of time. Okay, so like in Genesis, it tells us it was, 6 days and on the seventh God rested. Okay, or that it happened at, X particular time. All right, you should also know, or here's another fact, that typically the Earth/universe, depending on which narrative you read, is literally only a couple of thousand years old. All right. Doesn't matter which narrative you look at. Most of them, go with that. And then, one of the last things, of course, when humanity appears, humanity is this. Okay. Humanity is fully formed. All right. I wrote down like Genesis, Popol Vuh, etc. You should be familiar, and we'll start with the first one. Where are you? You should know that Purusha, the sacrifice of Purusha, is an Indian story. Okay, so that one comes from India. All right. You should know that the account in Genesis or the account in the Bible is a Hebrew, okay, narrative. All right. Later, Jewish people, Christians, all of them adopted it, but it's a Hebrew narrative. Okay. You should know that the Wananzi is a Chinese narrative. Okay, so that one came from China. All right. And then you should know that the Popol Vuh is a Maya narrative. Okay. Questions on that? All right then. Soon as I do this, okay, let me switch over to some different slides. Where are you? Here we are. You should know the definition of a hominid, okay? In this case, hominids includes gorillas. If you can actually spell chimpanzee, great. If not, you can just put chimps. All right, and of course, humans. Okay, that's all I need you to know. If you want to put, primates, that include, gorillas, chimps, and humans. Okay? We'll deal with the other stuff in the next questions. Okay? You should know, okay, which hominin, which are the humans, okay, the first ones to use tools were Homo habilis. Okay, so Homo habilis, first one to use tools. Okay, you should know which one was the first to use fire, and that was Homo erectus. So Homo erectus, fire. Okay. And the first modern human, or us, here. Does anyone remember? While I hand decoded this. Yes, Homo sapiens, whoever said that, all right? If I knew, you'd get a gold star. All right, so Homo sapiens, the first modern human. Okay, so for number 3, once again, you should know that Homo habilis was the first to use tools. Homo erectus was the first to use fire. And Homo sapien is considered to be the first modern human. Okay? You should know the 2 different types of pastoralism. And let me just really quick here, sorry, there we go, okay. Number 1 is transhumance, all right. Number 2 is nomadic, all right. And of course, you should know the basic differences. Sometimes for me, it's easier to just remember nomadic, all right. These are the ones that are just constantly on the move. They have no set base, all right. They follow their herds wherever. These are the ones that eventually become the hordes that go back and forth across Central Asia. Okay, they are also the ones that domesticated horses. Okay, whereas transhumans, they do have like a base. They do have a settlement, whether it's a village or a farm or whatever. They go off into the mountains, into the hills, into wherever for however long to graze their animals, and then at some point they come back. Okay, and those animals have been fattened, they've grown wool, they've done all that, so now they can provide, you know, milk and meat and clothing and everything. Okay, so transhumans, all right, they have a base, they go out, and then they come back. Nomadic, no home, they just keep wandering, okay, and they're the ones that domesticated the horse. All right, questions? Where did most early cities develop and why? Okay, where are you? Well, maybe I put it somewhere. Anyways, most early cities developed next to rivers. Okay. Why would rivers be the locale of the first civilizations? What do rivers have? Water, yes. And what do we need water for? You can say it louder, Josie. Crops, yes. Animals, people, okay? For everything, all right? So the first cities are next to rivers because rivers are where the water is. And, you know, everything needs water, okay? You should know that the earliest crops, okay, were wheat and barley. Okay. What do you get from wheat, or what is made out of wheat? Bread. Okay, so early humans had a very basic form of bread, and of course the fun part, what do we use barley for? Beer. Yeah, you can say it louder, all right? Beer, yes. So early humans knew how to party. All right, so yeah, bread and beer, okay? You should know where Mesopotamia is located, okay? And honestly, I think this one's a multiple choice question. I think I just put where's Mesopotamia, you know, A, Iraq, B, Iran, C, Egypt, you know, D, I don't know what D is. But yes, it's just a multiple choice, so, okay? If you put copper with tin, what do you get? Bronze, yes, that's what I put there. Copper plus tin equals, all right? You should know the basic formula for bronze, okay? Number 9, what is polytheism? You need to know what this means. Belief in many gods. Thank you, Tori. Belief in many gods. Okay? If you want to put worship many gods, that's fine. But, you know, you believe in many gods. All right? Very simple. Okay? What were the pyramids used for? What were they? FYI, they weren't like alien cubs. Okay? Just like the History Channel might tell you. What were the pyramids for? Graves, yes, they were tombs. Specifically, they were tombs for the pharaohs. Okay? If all you write is tombs for the pharaohs, boom, you just got yourself credit. Okay, right there. All right. Let us turn the page. Why am I using those? I got one without symbols. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. What is a cuneiform? Where are you? Nope, it goes back. Here we go, here we go. Oh no, that's actually in chapter 2. Look at that, we've already gotten into chapter 2. All right. Where are you? Here we go. See, we talked about water, cities, technology. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay. Here we go. We went from chapter 1 to 2 without me remembering. Okay, you should know that cuneiform, and you can give me a couple of things. Obviously, number 1, it's Mesopotamian writing. Okay. It was basically pictures, all right? And the pictures represented not only sounds, but also abstract concepts. So if you want to use an example, all right, modern day emojis, okay, if someone draws that or sends you that via text, what is that meant to convey? Come on, Josie, happiness, yes, okay, happiness, all right? So cuneiforme, the symbols either represented a sound or they represented an idea, okay? You should also know that they were etched in tablets, okay? The tablets were mud. People did their etchings, they let it cool, all right, and then boom. You don't have to put all of that, but if you include some of it, okay, then yes. All right. Speaking of writing, moving on to Egypt. Where are you? Egypt. Okay. You should know the 3 types of Egyptian writing. Type number 1 is hieroglyphics. Okay. Hieroglyphics was used for, religious and royal things, all right, things that dealt with the pharaohs, okay. Type number 2 is hieratic. Hieratic was used for just everyday common stuff, all right. So hieroglyphics, that's what we find in the pyramids because it's religious and it's the kings. Hieratic, everything else. And then later on, the Egyptians realized, why the hell do we have 2 different types of writings? So they combined the 2, and then that became Demotic, all right? So you can just say Demotic combined the first 2, all right, into something simpler. And of course, if you want to add, it was similar to cuneiform where pictures and drawings represented both a sound or a concept, okay? And of course, unlike the Mesopotamians, Egyptians wrote on very primitive paper, on papyrus, okay? So they used ink on this type of paper. All right, unlike the Mesopotamians who etched it in mud. All right. I must have been jumping around in my brain because then I went all the way back. Okay, and so I apologize. Let me go back to the first chapter. Nothing. Okay. You should know the basic definition of evolution, okay? It's just the process by which both plants and animals change over time, okay? If you want, you can include, survival of the fittest, okay? Basically, if you can adapt, your genes go on. If you can't, you die out, all right? But basically just plants and animals changing, adapting to the environment, okay? Or, hell, sorry, successful adaptation to the environment, all right? That's evolution, okay? You should also have a basic familiarity with domestication. Where are you? Okay. Okay. In this case, what is domestication? I don't think we actually have it up here. All right. But when it comes to plants, it's like making them grow on purpose. All right. You're not just picking them wild. When it comes to animals, okay, you can put down that it's taming an animal, or, you know, getting it to live with you, getting it to do stuff for you, okay? In the case of like dogs and stuff, you know, they were domesticated and used for companionship, for work, or for stuff like that, okay? I can tell you right now, this is a short answer question, okay? You should understand and be able to kind of, you know, share. Where are you? Okay, sorry. Okay, where are you? Nope, not technology. Okay, all right. You should be able to tell me the effects of agriculture, okay? And so in this case, number one, and I know I don't have it all right here, some of it's on the previous chapter, but there's a food surplus, okay, number one. When there's enough food, population grows. Okay, because people aren't starving to death. They don't have to go out and like get attacked by a lion while they're hunting. All right, so they have a safe food source. So more food equals more people equals more food. All right. Eventually, we get to a point where there is enough food so that not everyone has to be a farmer. Okay, and so in this case, then we have people being able to pursue other things, all right? So someone learns how to make baskets. Somebody learns how to invent the wheel, and we get wagons. Someone begins to work with wood, and we get tables and chairs and, you know, all of those other things. And someone begins to work with metals, and so we get things like bronze and, you know, metalworking and all of that. Okay, so, all right, the effects of agriculture, all right, that's what leads us to having these complex societies. And obviously you don't have to, but, you know, you can get into, yeah, and then, you know, then you get a division of labor, and then you get different social classes, and then you start using money, and, you know, so basically without agriculture, none of that gets started. Okay, so, food surplus, more people, more food, more people, and you don't have to do it over and over, maybe once or twice. All right, and then of course, eventually, not everyone has to farm, and so we get the development of other things. All right? Questions? I'm gonna pause every now and then. All right, so you should be able to identify, where are you, Sargon? No. No. Okay. Who was Sargon? Sargon was the ruler of Akkad. Why is he called the Great? Because he was able to conquer other parts of Mesopotamia. So, ruler of Akkad, conquered, all right, other parts of Mesopotamia. He's basically the first conqueror. All right, so that's why we remember him. Why did Egyptians mummify their dead? What did they believe in? Whoever said that, yes, afterlife. Okay? They believed in an afterlife. If you want to expand on that, existence was a cycle. okay? It ended, then started again, okay? So, that's the afterlife. It's starting over, okay? And of course, what are you going to need in your next life? Yes, the body, okay? You can't show up in like a rotting corpse, all right? So you need your body, okay? And so, yes, that's why they mummify their dead, all right? So that now you have your body for the afterlife, all right? And once again, I apologize. I kind of jumped around here. So moving to China just for a second, okay? Yeah. Why was development in China slower than in other places? Okay, you basically have two reasons. Number one, lack of animals that could be domesticated. All right, they didn't have the same type of goats and sheeps and things like that. Okay, in fact, just as an aside, remember the Chinese were the first to domesticate the chicken, if you can call it that, all right? Because chickens are crazy and they kill you, or they poke you in the belly, or at least they poked 5-year-old Santos in the belly. All right, so yes, okay? And then number two, geography, okay? They were geographically isolated from other parts, okay? Now, Egypt was to a certain degree, but they still had that one opening where they could go into Palestine. Mesopotamia was wide open, okay? India also wide open, but China had, mountains on one side, deserts on another, okay? And so it was, completely cut off, all right? How does writing affect society? Okay, and for this, I kind of want you to look at some of the different things. Okay, so let me go back to this, okay, because it's the same in pretty much all societies. Number one, you can talk about this. We get a new social class, okay, the scribes, the people who actually do the writing, okay? So number one, new social class, or if you want to write, the rise of scribes, okay? Because not everyone knew how to read and write, okay? Number two, okay, and in this case, we now get written records. We now get history. We now get, narratives. We now get stories, okay? And with that, you no longer need, a village rememberer, and you have, accurate record keeping, okay? Which, as society gets bigger and bigger, all right, becomes more important, okay? You should be familiar with the concept of Ma'at. All you have to do is write order of the universe, okay? If you want to throw in the other words, everything has to be like truth and in harmony and justice, fine. But basically, you're just looking at harmony in the universe, okay? And that was an Egyptian, if you want to say Egyptian belief, you can throw that in, okay? That was your purpose here for existing, is to bring harmony to the universe, all right? Then looking at, okay, and in this case, we did it through kind of looking at different things, okay. Why were there no large cities or civilizations? I don't think I wrote it, so I apologize. Why were there no large cities or civilizations in the Americas or in Europe? Okay. Well, remember Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, China. Where did they all develop next to? Rivers. Okay. Number one, there were no major rivers in those areas. Okay. So one, no major rivers. At least nothing like the Tigris and the Euphrates or the Nile. Okay, those are pretty big ass rivers and really important. Okay. Number two, if you think of the Americas, if you think of especially in Central Mexico and Central America, and then if you think of Central Europe and Northern Europe, okay, what predominantly covered the landscape? Okay, was it flat? Who said it? I don't know. Yes, trees. Okay, in Europe it was forests. In the Americas it was jungle. Okay, remember this is like before Home Depot or Lowe's. You don't have, you know, these power tools. You can just like cut down all kinds of trees. You're doing it with very, very primitive primitive tools. All right, so it's a lot of effort just to clear land. All right, yeah, you're not going to do big farms. Okay, in that regard. Okay, so all right, number one. No major rivers that would provide, you know, the way the Nile, the way the Tigris, Euphrates did. And number two, you had heavily forested land, whether it was forest or jungle, okay, that you had to clear first. All right. This I wrote it in for you, but if you want to add to it, and this is from this chapter we just finished, the two most important influences of these Central Asian tribes, because remember, they start moving into these areas. Number one is language, okay? And I think I wrote it down for you there. Yes, okay? Number one influence that they had was the language. Their language mixed with the local language, and in cases like Mesopotamia, they took the writing and adapted it to their language. So now they had a written language, okay? And that is why there are similar words throughout, you know, Central Asian languages, old European languages, and like newer European languages. Number two, remember that these tribes, these hordes, because they were nomadic, they tamed horses. And so they not only brought a horse culture, but, you know, also the chariot into these areas. Okay, so the two influences are, I don't know why I put it as three. Language, horses, and chariots. Okay, so I wrote it there for you. Okay. Last page, 24. Okay, you should know the capital of the Middle Kingdom, and that is Thebes, the city of Thebes. Okay, just FYI, that one's a multiple choice question. Okay, so I think I put like other things, and then Thebes is one of them. Okay. For the Hyksos, okay, you should know that, here we are, they were the Central Asian tribe that invaded Egypt. Okay. You can also describe them as Indo-European, but the Central Asian tribe that invaded Egypt. That's all I really want for you to remember. Okay? What was the effect of the Hyksos invasions? Okay? Number one, okay? Egyptians adopt Hyksos strategy. Okay? They adopt Hyksos weapons, okay? And, no, it's okay. So they adopt Hyksos weapons and Hyksos strategy, all right? And then the other thing is they begin an era of conquest, all right? For the next 200 years, Egyptians go out and conquer everything, or as much as they can. If you want to add also, oh yeah, and then they, you know, not only do they adopt Hyksos, but they invent their own, like, you know, master weapons, okay? But the most important thing is they adopt Hyksos weapons and strategy. and they become much more aggressive. They start to conquer as much as they can. Okay? Hatshepsut, all you need to know is that she was the first female ruler, okay? Or at least the first one that we know of, all right? That, since written records were kept. There might have been some before people wrote, but, all right? First female ruler, Hatshepsut. The Battle of Megiddo. First ever chariot versus chariot battle. Okay? Before this point in time, it was chariots against people on foot. Bless you. All right? But now, chariot versus chariot. You should know that the Amorites, number one, were that Central Asian tribe that invaded Mesopotamia. Okay, so Hyksos invade Egypt, Amorites invade Mesopotamia. Okay, I put Babylonians there in parentheses because what city did they build? Yes, Babylon. That's why some texts, all right, some writings refer to them as the Babylonians. Okay, so Amorites, parentheses, Babylonians, Central Asian tribe that invaded Mesopotamia. Okay, what do I mean by the code? Yes, Hammurabi's code. Okay, you should know some of the basics. Number one, people think of it as, if you want to say eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, fine. Okay. But basically, number one, it was a list of various crimes and punishments. You don't need to tell me it was 282. All right, but crimes and punishments. It was also a list of social rules, okay? How you're supposed to act, who you can talk to, who you can be with. And then, of course, you should be familiar, okay? I'm not going to ask you about the social orders, okay? Or at least I'm not going to tell you, like, okay, name the 3 social. But you should know that it split people up into different orders, okay? And, of course, you should know that despite the fact that people summarize it as an eye for an eye, okay, how were the punishments actually determined? Okay, well, it all depended on the social class of the offender and the social class of the offended. Okay, if you were equal, then the punishment was equal. If a higher class hurt a lower class, then typically just a fine. All right, if a lower class hurt a higher class, then it was death. Okay. Oh, and of course, what was the Babylonian preferred method of execution? Drowning. Yes, Dakota. All right, drowning. Okay? They just threw you into there was 2 of them. They just threw you into one of the rivers and let you drown. Okay? Each culture had its favorite way of executing people. All right? Who were the Hittites? Central Asian tribe that invaded Anatolia, okay? But of course, you should know, and that's the second part, where is Anatolia? I did not write it here. Oh. Do you know, Josie? You're always whispering. It's Turkey, yes. Anatolia is Turkey. All right, so you should know, Central Asian tribe that invaded Anatolia. Anatolia is modern-day Turkey. All right? Battle of Kadesh. Where are you? Here we go. Battle of Megiddo, first, chariot versus chariot. Battle of Kadesh, largest chariot versus chariot battle. All right? Depending on which record you believe, there were 10,000 chariots going against 10,000 chariots. All right? That seems a little excessive, but, okay? who were the Aryans? Once again, it's going to start with Central Asian tribe that invaded India. Okay? If you put Indo-European, it basically means the same thing. But Central Asian tribe that invaded India. Okay? You should know that the Vedas were, if you want to write sacred hymns, sacred poems, sacred writings, all right, any one of those, because once again, it kind of depends on which translation you read, all right, sacred poems, sacred writings, sacred hymns, okay, from India, okay, after the Aryans, invaded. And then, of course, you should be able to give one or two things that we learn from the Vedas, okay? You don't have to do all of them, all right? But, 2, maybe 3 will get you full credit, all right? They love their wine, they love their music. If you just say they love to party, okay, good. They were a patriarchal society, okay? Once again, polytheistic, all right? What does polytheism mean? Yes, so they believed in many gods, and of course, those gods, okay, demanded animal sacrifice, okay? They believed in life after death. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how it was different from the Egyptian idea, but for now, it's enough to just say they believed in an afterlife, okay? Bravery and warfare, they were a very warlike society, okay? And of course, when they weren't out fighting, they loved competition, they loved games, they loved to test their skill, okay? Like I said, 2 or 3 of these, all right, will get you full credit, okay? This one I wrote in for you, all right, so you wouldn't have to write it. You should know that the Shang introduced the idea of ancestor worship, all right? And so that's why I wrote it right there, Shang, ancestor worship, all right? The concept of ancestor worship was introduced by the Shang, okay? They created a 360-day lunar calendar, which is like only 5 days off from an actual calendar, which is pretty impressive. It was thousands of years ago. But because lunar calendars tend to shift, because it doesn't add up to 28 days to 366, whatever, what did they add to make it all work? A leap month, yes, okay? So in this case, every couple years, you'd be December 31st. Oh, shit, we got another month. All right, yeah, no Happy New Year for another, 28 days. Okay, so yeah, all right. So you should know, number 1, all right, they introduced the calendar, the 360-day calendar, and number 2, they added an extra month every couple years to make it all fit. Okay. They messed around with silkworms. What are silkworms used for? Silk. And what do we use silk for? Clothes, yes. Okay. The second example of humans domesticating something that was not meant to be solely eaten or consumed. Okay, some people might say, yeah, but what about sheep, Santos? I mean, they took the, yes, but then they also took the milk and they also slaughtered them and had, lambs too. All right, in this case, the silkworm was strictly for their silk and to make clothing. In India, they grew cotton, didn't eat the cotton, used it to make clothes. Okay, you should know what oracle bones were. Okay. And of course, any one of these things, okay, it was used to receive guidance, okay. The bones were actually bones with writing on them, okay. The people would pray and then drop the bones, and whatever turned up, that was the answer from the gods, or specifically from your ancestors, Okay, that was the answer they were giving you. Okay, there was no priesthood, and so if you didn't understand the message from the oracle bones, you could always go to like scribes or diviners, and they could try to explain to you. Okay, what's the modern day example that Mr. Santos gave you? Yes, the magic, no, not just any people, the magic people. All right, where you shake it up and you ask it, it's always the same 6 answers, but, you shake it up and it tells you, like, should I give class a test on Monday? Like, yes, no, whatever, okay? Finally, okay, you should know what the word Polynesian means. Polynesian means belonging to many islands. And honestly, this one's a multiple choice, so, there'll be like 3 random answers and then belonging to many islands. That's the right one, okay? And of course, you should know where they originally came from. Yes, they ended up in Fiji, Samoa, Easter Island, Hawaii, all of those places, but where did it all start? Yes, whoever said that, very good. Okay, southern China. Okay, that's where those people got their start. And it took over 2,000 years for them to reach as far east as Hawaii and Easter Island. Okay.